to share my screen with you all. And I'm going to start with a bidding question for you, which is, what do you think North should bid here? Your partner has opened 1 no trump. That's playing 12 to 14 points. And would anyone like to, and I'm going to launch a poll in a moment about what North should reply to that 1 no trump. Okay, so have a little think about it. And here comes the first poll of the afternoon. What do you think North should bid? Okay, let's end the poll there. I'm going to share the results with you. And only 2 choices there. Most of you, 56%, went for 2 clubs and 44% said pass. And those of you who bid 2 clubs, yes, I agree with that. This is a use of Stayman with a weak hand. Very often when you're using Stayman in response to 1 no trump, you're either going to bid game or invite game. But this is one of the uses of Stayman with a weak hand, where you've got the 3 suits except for clubs, and rather than pass, which will probably not make because you've only got 6 points, so the opponents may well have more points than you, you and your partner. So with a weak hand, but with this distribution, either 4-4-4-1 or 4-4-5-0, it's not a bad idea to use Stayman, planning to pass whatever your partner bids. So you bid 2 clubs here, and whatever your partner responds, 2 diamonds, 2 hearts, or 2 spades, you will pass. And hopefully you'll do better with this distribution than playing it in 1 no trump, where you may struggle to make. Okay, any questions on that part so far? So well done to the slight majority of you who said 2 clubs. Yes, I agree with that. And really, the weaker your hand is here, the more desirable it is to try and find a suit contract to be in rather than in 1 no trump. So yes, I think you should bid 2 clubs on this hand. And if South has 4 spades, they will bid 2 spades, and that will end the auction. So let's have a look at this hand being played in 2 spades. And the topic today is playing in a suit contract where you have weak trumps, as is the case here, because although you have an 8-card fit in spades, your trumps are not that great. And the question is, how should that affect your play? So we're going to look at different situations where declarer has maybe a rather weak trump holding and try and figure out the best line of play. So let's have a look at this from declarer's point of view and try and work out how many potential losers we have in each suit. So let's look at the spade suit to start with. Now, you may sort of think, gosh, what a terrible spade suit I'm in, but you have 8 spades, and if the missing spades divide 3 in one hand and 2 in the other, we'll probably just lose 2 tricks there. We'll probably just lose 2 spades. In hearts, we've got 1 trick we're going to lose. And in diamonds, I'm hoping not to lose any tricks. I'm hoping to make 4 tricks there. Now, clubs, in the south hand, I've got 3 losers here, but I don't think I'm going to lose all of those if I can ruff twice in dummy. So that's going to be my plan on this hand. See if I can ruff 2 clubs in dummy. And if I can do that, I will only lose, let's go through it again, 2 spades, 1 heart, and 1 club. So if I can ruff 2 clubs, I can make 9 tricks, just losing 4 tricks. So let's see if we can put it into practice. So they leave the queen of hearts, and let's suppose we win that one with the ace. Now, I'm not going to draw trumps right away, because what I want to do is to delay drawing trumps until I've ruffed clubs. So I might play a club straight away, lose that one to the ace, and I should be not at all surprised if, having lost that club, if the defense switched to a trump. And they're doing that because they can see there's a void now in the north hand, and I may well have clubs I want to ruff, and they're trying to stop me. So they may well switch to a trump, and I've got to think about what I want to do here. What you really want to do on this hand is, as I said, to ruff twice. So I need to keep 2 trump in the north hand, but I also do want to draw some trumps here. In other words, if I don't draw any trumps, I'm in danger of not being able to cash those diamonds. And in fact, we're going to look at this hand played 3 different ways. But the best thing to do here is you can win this one, win this one, and then continue drawing clubs, or you could actually let the opponents win this one. But if they continue with the second trump, win the second one. And now what you've done is you've drawn 2 rounds of trumps. There's 1 trump still outstanding, 1 high trump, it's the jack. But you're not worried about that. They can ruff with that whenever they like. But what you've got now is 2 clubs, which you can still ruff in the north hand. So we took the second trump there, and now we're not going to touch trump again. We're going to just use the trumps to ruff the clubs. So ruff the first one. Then we're going to maybe come back to our hand with the diamond and ruff a second club. And then we're going to just try and cash our remaining winners. Hopefully we'll make 3 diamonds here. And at some point, they're going to ruff one of these diamonds with their last high trump. Okay, so let's just bring up the 4 hands at this point. I may be able to cash a 3rd diamond. If I try to cash a 4th diamond, they will ruff, but that's their last trump gone. And now the best they can do is to cash 1 heart. And after that, I've got 2 trump left, and we'll make 9 tricks on that hand. So to make 9 tricks, all you really needed on that hand was the trumps to divide 3 and 2, and the diamonds to divide 3 and 2 also. And if that works, you can make 9 tricks on this hand. Doing trump, maybe if you have any questions or comments you'd like to make. We're going to play this hand again, but played slightly differently. This is exactly the same hand, but sometimes when people have a trump holding like this that's really weak, they sort of take fright and they don't really want to touch trumps at all. And that is not going to work very well on this hand, because if you don't draw trumps, you won't be able to cash your 4 diamond tricks. You've got 4 diamonds that you expect to make, but to do that, you have to draw trumps. So if you fail to draw trumps, if you stay away from trumps, which some people sort of do on this hand, so maybe they think, well, I'll just try and cross ruff here. I won't I won't draw trumps. So the opponents again might win the first club. They might draw 1 round of trumps, which you win. And now suppose you turn your attention to clubs like you did before, trying to ruff. And suppose you play a diamond back here, ruff your last club, which works. But then maybe you think, well, maybe I'll just try to ruff some hearts or something. Well, if the opponents get in there and suppose they carry on with hearts, you can indeed ruff that, which is perhaps what you wanted to do. But you can see that because you haven't drawn trumps, you're going to have a trouble now cashing more than 1 diamond. You can take 1 trick there, but if you play another diamond, East is able to ruff with the 9. If they play the king, you can ruff, but that gets over ruffed. West can now draw the last trump and cash that. And played that way, it will make 2 tricks less. You'll only make 7 tricks because you didn't draw trumps. And you don't want to go too far the other way. You don't want to draw all the opponent's trumps, or you won't be able to ruff the clubs you've got. So played a third way. This is someone who maybe wants to draw all the opponent's trumps, and that's not right either. So again, they lead the queen. Suppose you lead a club to start with, and the opponents win. They draw one round of trumps. Suppose you let them win that. They play another round, which you win. And now it's a mistake to draw that last trump. Very often when there's one high trump out, leave it out. So here, if you draw it, now what you've done is you've reduced your trump holding in the north hand to just one spade left. So you can only ruff one club now. So whatever happens now, you can get in, and when you get in, you can you'll be able to cash your diamonds, and you'll be able to ruff one club, but that will be it. After that, you can take your diamonds, but you'll be left losing the last trick, and you'll make just 8 tricks. So drawing all the trumps there is a mistake, as is drawing none of the trumps. And the ideal thing to do is to plan so that you just draw 2 rounds of trumps, and therefore that leaves you 2 trumps in the north hand. Anyone have any comments or questions on that? Now let's have a look at this one, which is the same bidding but a slightly different hand. Again, you open 1 no trump, your partner bids 2 clubs, and you bid 2 spades, and your partner passes. And again on this hand, let's have a think of this hand about how we're going to play it. And it's a little different from the last hand because we don't really have a long diamond suit where we're hoping to make 4 diamonds. Probably we're just going to make 2 diamonds with the ace and king. Likewise, we're going to make 2 hearts. So we start off with those 4 top tricks outside of the trump suit, 2 hearts and 2 diamonds. And really on this hand, what we're going to try and do is not draw trumps at all here. This is a hand that's suitable for cross-ruffing. And what makes it different to the previous hand is that there's no need to draw trump. On the previous hand, we wanted to cash 4 diamonds, and we could only do that if we draw trump. But here, there's no real need to draw trump. And this hand is much more suitable for a cross-ruff. Because we're hoping to ruff as many clubs as possible, and maybe ruff the hearts as well. And we're going to stay away from trumps altogether. So let's see how it goes. If I leave the ace of hearts, maybe we'll start off with a club. Again, the opponents might realize I'm planning to draw I'm avoiding drawing trumps, so they might shift to a trump themselves. We can't prevent that, but we're going to win that. And then we're just going to go to our plan of cross-ruffing, ruffing as many clubs as possible. So we'll ruff the first one. Maybe we'll cash the king of hearts. And it's a good idea when you're cross-ruffing not to be left with high cards in any side suit. So I'm going to play the ace and king of diamonds early on so that they can't get ruffed, and then go back to my plan of trying to cross-ruff the rest of the hand. Let's bring up the 4 hands at this point, and we can see we're going to play a club here, which we're going to ruff, play a heart back, which we're going to ruff, and then play another club. Now here, West is able to ruff, and of course, because they've ruffed high, we don't need to ruff. We're going to discard something. The right thing to discard here is actually a diamond. West gets in, and West will draw a trump because they could see I was cross-ruffing. So they've stopped my cross-ruffing, but I've still got 1 trump left. So they can take 1 more trick, and I will win the last one. So this was a hand really much better for not drawing any trump and just trying to cross-ruff the hand. And it was different because I didn't have a side suit here where I wanted to take a number of tricks. I just needed two diamonds and two hearts was all I wanted to make outside of the outside of the trump suit. Anyone have any questions? So do look at, this kind of hand compared with the previous kind of hand. They're slightly different in that you have a side suit you want to take in one of them, and in this case you don't really have that, so it's much better just to draw not to draw trumps, but try to ruff as much as you can. Any questions or comments on that? Let's have a look at this one here. And here you open a weak two hearts. It's not the best two heart bid, but I think it qualifies. It's 6 points with a reasonable heart suit. And that gets passed out. And the opponents lead a club, and down comes dummy. And you can see that you're in a bit of problem in hearts because your trump suit isn't really very good at all opposite your partner's void in hearts. So let's have a think at how you might play this. With such weak trumps, it's probably going to be better if you can make tricks with the low hearts by ruffing rather than trying to draw the opponent's trumps. So if we think about the tricks outside of the trump suit, I've got two spades, one diamond, and one club. So I've got four top tricks on this hand outside of the trump suit: two spades, one diamond, and one club. So that's four tricks I can make. And my goal on this hand is to make as many trumps as I can here. If I can make four trumps, then that will be my contract. And I stand a better chance of making those hearts if I don't lead that suit, but if I instead use the small trumps to ruff with. So this is, if you like, an unusual situation where you're planning to make tricks by ruffing in the hand with the long trump suit. So here all the trumps are in one hand, but you can actually do better, and it's slightly unusual to ruff in the long hand here, but with such weak trump holding, that's probably the best option. So that's what we're going to do on this hand. We're going to ruff as many times as we can in the south end, and what we're going to ruff, of course, is clubs. And if we're going to ruff three clubs if we can, with our low trumps instead of leading them out. So let's try and do that. They've led a club, so I'll win the ace, and let's immediately play a club back, which I'm going to ruff. Success there, so I need to get over back to dummy, perhaps with the ace of diamonds, and ruff another club. Okay, that was successful. Again, I want to cross over to the ace of spades here, to the last entry to dummy, and play another club, which I'm going to now ruff. So far so good. I've made I've ruffed three times, and I've still got the king of spades. I suppose I cash the king of spades. That's 7 tricks. And I now just need to make one more trick. Okay. So I've got the second poll question for you now. At this point here, you've just made 7 tricks. What should south lead now? The lead is in the south hand. And the second poll is, what would you lead with that south hand? Let me share the results with you. And most of you have chosen a spade, followed by a diamond, and 24% said a heart. Well, this is quite an interesting poll. Sorry, let me find the right hand. This is quite an interesting poll because you've made 7 tricks and you've got the Queen Jack 9, and you should make one more trick with that. But the best way to get a trick with Queen Jack 9 at this point is not to lead the trump suit. So if I bring up the 4 hands at this point, you can see there's a horrific heartbreak. but if I click on the GIB button, it will say that you can now lead anything except a trump. So if I'm going to play a spade or a diamond, whatever you play, as long as you don't lead trump yourself, you should manage a trick there. But if you lead trump, then you might not make any trump tricks, because I don't know if you can see what would happen. If we lead the queen, for example, that might lose to the ace, and then you still might not make a trick with your jack and 9 because you're missing the king and the 10. But if you lead something else like a spade, then the opponents can win that. But whatever they play back, they can try and cash those. West is going to have to ruff at some point. And now whatever heart they play now, you're now going to make a trump trick. So whatever happens, you'll make the queen of hearts at the end and make your 8 tricks that way. So a couple of, yeah.
Can I just ask, Tony, if the hearts had been a 4-3 split, yes?
Yes.
What would actually have happened if you did draw trumps and start obviously with lower ones or whichever? What would actually happen if it was a normal split of a 4-3?
4-3. Well, I think you're still in danger of losing 3 tricks there if you led that suit.
Right.
Because the queen might lose to the ace, the jack might lose to the king, and you still could easily lose at least 1 more. As it was, you managed to make 4 trump tricks.
Yeah. Okay.
With your queen jack 9 and by ruffing 3 times, and that was probably a better plan than leading the trumps, just because they were so weak, really, and you're always having to lead, your honors or whatever. So I think you wouldn't do so well. I mean, especially as in this case.
Well, this one, obviously, yes.
Bad trump, right?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Will go badly for you. So it's a rare one, but it is a situation where you can do better by ruffing with your low trumps rather than leading them out. It's not that common, but it does happen. Okay, so let's try looking at this last hand now. And again, it's one where you've got reasonable trumps this time, although you're missing the honors apart from the ace and the king and the 10. So let's suppose you open this 1 heart. There's a 2 diamond overcall, and North bids 2 hearts. And that's quite a good bid, even if you're playing 4-card majors Akol. Your partner would like to bid something there with 8 points, and with only 3-card support, that is a very good alternative to passing. So 2 hearts there ends the auction, and the opponents start off with the ace of diamonds. And I've got the last poll of the afternoon, which is how many likely losers do you think you have here? And the way you should try and calculate this is count your losers from the point of view of South, but taking into account the strength in dummy. How many potential losers do you have here? What's a likely number of potential losers? So take a minute, and in a moment, here comes the final poll of the afternoon. How many losers do you think you have? Okay, let's have a look at the results. And we've got votes for everything there, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Majority 41% said 5, with 27% saying 4, 23% saying 6, and 9% saying 7. So let's switch back and see what we think. All right. So let's look at the spade suit. We've got the ace and king. So we've got 7 cards there. Likely the missing cards are divided 4 and 2. So that leaves us with 2 potential spade losers. We'll come back to that in a moment. But if, for example, we were to draw all the trumps, we might well be left with 2 spade losers. All right. In hearts, well, it looks like we're going to lose 1 trick probably. We've got 8 cards, missing the missing the queen and jack. So probably 1 loser there. We don't have any club losers, but we have a number of diamond losers. Now, you might think based on that lead that we might make a trick with our queen there. But if you think about it, West has overcalled there. So presumably they've got at least a 5-card suit there. If they've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, it means that East has only got 2. And I presume that West is going to cash the ace king and give their partner a ruff. So either way, we're in danger of losing 3 tricks there, 3 tricks in diamonds, 1 in hearts, and 2 in spades. So I think the answer is you have 6 potential losers there, but you might try to avoid one of those by roughing a spade. Or you may find that the spades divide evenly, that they divide 3-3, in which case your last spade will be good. But I think unless something happens in the diamonds and I manage to make a trick there, my best bet is to try to avoid a spade loser by roughing that 4th spade, unless the suit divides evenly. And that would reduce my losers from 6 to 5. So that's going to be the plan in the back of my mind, thinking about drawing perhaps some trump, but leaving a trump in dummy so I can ruff the last spade. So let's see what happens. They play the 8 on that one. They carry on with the king, and East plays a 7. So I think I know what's coming. They were encouraging. So they ruff the 3rd diamond, and we've lost the first 3 tricks. Now they switch to a club, so we win that one. And let's suppose what 1 trump has gone because there was a ruff earlier on. So the opponent started off with 5 trump. They're now down to 4. So let's maybe try drawing trump and seeing if we can draw the opponent's trump. So we draw a round. That's 2 of them gone. There are now 2 trump left, and we play another heart. Unfortunately, here East discards, so we win this one, and we leave out the last high trump. So West has got 1 trump left. It's a queen, and we're not going to draw it. But what we're going to do is see if we can use that 7 of hearts in dummy to ruff a spade with. So let's play the ace of spades, and then play the king of spades. And let's bring up the 4 hands at this point and see what happens. And we're going to play another spade now, which West wins. And you can see now that if you can, you'll be able to ruff a spade. But West, if they figure out what's going on here, will realize what's going on, that there's 1 trump left in dummy. And of course, they can spoil Declarer's plans by drawing it with their queen, the 1 high trump. So very often, like I say, it's good for Declarer to leave out the last high trump, not to draw it. And it's the opposite for the defense. Here, by taking the queen of hearts, there are now no trumps in dummy, so you can now cash the queen of spades. And played that way, Declarer will just make 7 tricks. We'll lose those 6 tricks. Okay. So was there anything Declarer could have done about that? Let's look at the hand again, but play differently. So the plan was good, that you want to ruff a spade in dummy, but what you need to do is keep control of the spade suit. So the play starts off as it did before, with them taking the first 3 tricks and then playing a club. And what you need to do on this hand is to try to set up the spade so that they're ready for you to ruff without the opponents getting in. So it's quite a good idea to play a low spade here. Deliberately let them win that one. You're always going to lose one spade. But now, if they, for example, suppose they play another spade or whatever they play, you can now win that one. Now we're going back to our plan of drawing 2 rounds of trumps. We draw, if they fell evenly, that would be all of them, but they're not, because West has got the queen. But now we're in a position where we can't be stopped from roughing the spade. So we now play a spade and play our last spade, and we're going to rough that one in dummy. And at that point, we'll just concede 1 trick to the queen of hearts, and we'd make 8 tricks there. So again, that was one that required some careful handling of the trumps and the spade suit, and realizing that because you need to lose a spade early on, you may as well, you need to lose a spade. It's best to lose it early on, because then you're in control of the situation, and you can do your spade rough without them getting in to draw your last trump. Okay, any comments or questions on that? So that was the topic today, various situations that required some careful handling of the trump suit. Anyone like to ask me anything before we end the talk there? I hope you all followed that. And we'll end the talk there. Thank you all very much.